hear everybody on the stream. Yeah. Thanks.
All right, welcome. Welcome to the Charlotte Zoning Committee work session on August 30th, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Let's run through introductions initially for the commission. I'm Philip Gustman, Chair of the Zoning Committee of the Planning Commission. And I will now go to Douglas.
Douglas Welton, Planning Commission.
Commissioner Gaston.
Melissa Gaston, Planning Commission.
Commissioner Harvey.
RJ Harvey, Planning Commission.
Commissioner Russell.
Will Russell, Planning Commission.
And Chairwoman Sam.
Heba Samuel, Commission Chair.
Excellent. We are expecting one additional Courtney Rhodes to join us, but in the meantime, let's jump in and introduce staff. Dave? Or
Sure, I'll start it
whoever.
off. Dave Pettin, Rezoning Manager.
Donna Johnson McNeil, Planning Staff.
Michael Russell, Planning Staff.
John Kinley, planning staff.
Joe Mangum, Planning Staff.
Holly Kramer, planning staff.
Anna Aliati,
Excellent. Do we have any virtual staffers or are we all in the room?
Believe we do. Yeah, we think we have CDOT staff on virtual. So Jake, if you want to go around your team.
Jake Carpenter, CDOT.
Can we add some volume?
Patrick Mulder, CDOT staff.
Parker, CDOT staff.
Alfred Oyoyo, CDOT staff.
Excellent.
Thank you.
That's it? Okay, good deal.
Yeah, I think that's it. Is that everybody, Holly? Yeah, okay.
Excellent. All right, I'll just hit some ground rules here. The public hearing on the rezoning cases that we're about to review today have been held already by the City Council and the Zoning Committee over the last few months. This meeting is not a continuation of the public hearing, so there will be no public input unless the committee has a specific request of the petitioner. So, moving on, I think we're into deferral land. Dave, we got any?
Yeah, we do. We have three items that are listed on the agenda for deferral. Those are items 1, 2, and 3. Item 1 is 2021-209. Item 2 is 2021-244. And item 3 is 2021-213, all requesting deferral to October 4th of 2022. No other additions to those lists of deferrals at this time.
All right, thank you. Anyone like to make a motion on those deferrals?
This is Commissioner Welton. I will make a motion that we accept these deferrals. And do I need to say anything else?
Nope, that's it. I need a second.
Second.
Commissioner Samuel seconded, motioned by Commissioner Welton. Here's where we do it a little bit different, guys. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes unanimously.
All right.
Wasn't that easier than naming everything? We can gavel now? All right, we'll go back to that. All right, thank you, everyone. We are now going to start with item 1 on our, I would also like to, are there any motions on how we might reposition some things on the agenda, for example?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that since we have a city support staff member here who has the last agenda item, that we kind of move items 17 and 4, switch items 17 and 4. That also allows us to have Commissioner Rhodes join in for what I feel might be necessary vote. So I move that item 17 and 4 swap.
On that motion, do we have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And that passes. So we'll swap a couple of items, 4 for 17 in our agendas. All right. In that case, Next up is, oh, I have clicked a different button. Dave.
Yes.
I believe you have the next one, or the item 5, correct?
I believe
No,
it's,
17, pardon me, we just covered that. I
Yes.
apologize.
we'll start with Holly.
All right. This site is a little over 3 acres on the west side of Beam Road, north of Shopton Road, and south of Center Park Drive. Just to the east there is the CMPD training area, and just to the south is a vehicle training center as well. So it's a lot of city services all surrounding the site on the eastern and southern side. And just to the north of it is a freight shipping manufacturing location. The existing zoning is R3. That's not indicative of what is currently there or what is surrounding the site. That's just an old zoning district that has been carried over with the parcel, and the proposed zoning is to go to institutional. The 2040 policy map recommends manufacturing and logistics for the site. If approved, this petition would modify that place type to campus, since that is more in line with the institutional uses, but also the uses that we anticipate, given that this is a petition brought forth for the Charlotte Fire Department. It is surrounded by compatible uses, and we don't see any issues at this time with the petition. It is conventional, so there's no associated site plan, and I'll take any questions.
Excellent. Any questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion, and I'll note that all of the commissioners will have a piece of paper in front of them that has the specific language of how we can do this.
This is Commissioner Wilson. I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Having reviewed the petition and consider the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-085 as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second.
Second, thank you. Motion by Welton, seconded by Commissioner Samuel. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, Commission, item number 5, rezoning petition 2021-247 by HRLP Morrowcroft LP. That's John, right?
Yep. I'm just waiting for the presentation to get pulled up and I'll get started. Yeah.
Smile, Alfred, you're on our entire stream right now. Just swapping out the PowerPoint. All right, there we go.
Now we're back to track.
Right, so this is 7.56 acres on the east side of Colony Road, west of Morrison Boulevard, which is now named Carnegie Boulevard, north of Fairview. It's behind the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, which is right there on the corner of Colony and Carnegie. Next slide. It is currently zoned B1 SCD Shopping Center District, and the proposed zoning is MUD O, Mixed Use Development Optional. The policy map recommends Regional Activity Center for the site. The proposal would be for up to 150,000 square feet of office uses, which would be adding 48,055 square feet of office to this site, as there are some existing office buildings on the parcel. Up to 14,000 square feet of retail and EDE uses and personal service uses, maximum building height of 45 feet. It provides a private street connection between Colony and Carnegie. You can see that runs kind of a north to northeast through the site. Proposes to close barriers and indoor delineators on the southbound free flow right turn lane at Colony Road to Carnegie. That is right there in front of the library. That allows for a test period for a proposed CNIP project that was adjacent or nearby to the development. Commits to architectural standards and indicates primary facades and then provides a minimum 4,000 square feet of amenitized open space. It does have one optional provision to allow parking between the buildings and the private street, and that's to accommodate where some of the existing parking around the existing buildings are. Since the public hearing, they have added a note committing to stairway connection between the site and the library to be coordinated with the county library department with up to $100,000 contributed to the construction of that. If the cost of that construction is less than $100,000, then the remainder of that would be added to contribution that would go towards intersection modifications at Carnegie and Cameron Valley. It contributes $200,000 to intersection modifications at the Carnegie Cameron Valley Parkway intersection to enhance pedestrian safety in coordination with CDOT, and then request optional provision. So they added one more optional provision to allow the existing sidewalks to remain in their current location and current width to maintain the existing trees that are on both sides of the sidewalk that would otherwise end up being removed in the event of widening of those sidewalks. And that was agreed upon by basically all parties involved with the project, including planning, CDOT, and urban forestry. Staff recommends approval of the petition. There's no outstanding issues. Again, it is consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for regional activity center, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, John. Any questions from the committee?
John, quick question. Are there any new traffic lights? I know you said that there was a modification at Carnegie and whatever this road coming through is to make it more pedestrian friendly. Is that going to be any gated kind of traffic control stuff or just?
I don't think there's any new traffic lights. CDOT staff could probably answer that question better as to what might be happening at the connection streets intersection.
Okay.
This is Jay Carpenter with CDOT. The improvements at Cameron Valley would include closing the slip lanes that are existing, doing a new crossing across Cameron Valley and Carnegie, and a hybrid beacon for pedestrians across Carnegie. So the whole improvements as a whole would benefit pedestrian connections at that intersection, getting pedestrians from the existing site and the library safely across Carnegie to the south side where the future loop location occurs.
Jake, the hybrid beacon is going to be right at that intersection or maybe off of it a little bit, mid-block kind of thing?
So the way a hybrid beacon would work at that location would be most likely right at the western side of that intersection. Just off. It's a little tricky because you have the left turn lanes there and things, but it would be a crossing location with a mid-block and stop control for vehicles so pedestrians could cross.
Okay, thank you. I drove through the intersection the other day and it just seemed big. So was just curious. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So for the new parking that is parallel to the new jewel box retail in the center, is that going to be like on-street parking, like a reverse angle, or is that strictly pulling in 90 degrees?
You're talking about in the very center of the site?
Very center, the two green.
Judging by the dimensions that they're showing on the site plan, it looks like it would be a 90-degree pull-in parking.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll take a motion if anyone is prepared.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Weldon.
Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2021-27247. Reading the numbers is hard. As it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Seconded by Harvey. Excellent. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's another unanimous 6-0 for the books. Next up, rezoning number 6, rezoning petition 2021 2021-257 by Lennar Carolinas LLC. And with Joe on that.
Nope.
There we
Okay. Current zoning is MX2 Innovative. It's within the Lower Lake Wiley critical area. Proposed zoning is a site plan amendment of that MX2 Innovative, maintaining that watershed overlay. The 2040 policy map recommends neighborhood 1 place type for this site. The proposal is for 316 single-family attached units at 6 DUA with a max building height of 40 feet. Includes innovative provisions for minimum lot width of 19 feet, minimum individual lot area of 1,700 square feet, minimum building footprint of 1,600 square feet, minimum individual unit heated area of 1,200 square feet, minimum side setback width of 10 feet adjacent to right-of-ways and alleys, commits to a 35-foot Class C buffer along the southern property boundary, a 50-foot Class C perimeter buffer that may be reduced to 37.5 feet with a berm or fence wall along the other property boundaries, provides 2.5 acres of common space with amenities such as clubhouse, pool, landscaping, mail, kiosk, dog park, and other similar amenities. Commits to architectural standards related to pitched roofs, raised entrances, and recessed garage doors. And commits to transportation improvements, including 8-foot sidewalk, an 8-foot planting strip along Old Dowd Road frontage, and 8-foot planting strip and 6-foot sidewalk along the Amos Smith frontage. 100-foot protected driveway stem from Old Dowd Road, eastbound and westbound left turn lanes with 150 feet of storage on Old Dowd Road at the McGarry Trail Access A. Signal phasing modifications at the future traffic signal by other developers at Old Dowd and Sam Wilson Road. And southbound left turn lane on Amos Smith Road at Access B with 150 feet of storage. Since the public hearing, they have addressed a labeling issue regarding the buffer, as well as identifying phasing improvements for the Amos Smith Road and Access B with NCDOT. Also confirming with NCDOT that tying the roadway improvements to the 100 certificate of occupancy is acceptable. There remains one outstanding issue from Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation, which is a request to dedicate and convey a minimum of 2.5 acres for a future neighborhood park. Staff recommends approval upon resolution of that one outstanding issue, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Committee, any questions? Had one.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Joe, I was hoping this would have been resolved prior to tonight, and I had this question earlier, but also relied on the resolution. But what's standing in the way of item number 2 being accomplished? Outstanding issue number 2?
The petitioner feels that they cannot provide the requested park area on their site.
At all, or did they propose an alternative measurement?
I am not aware of a
Okay,
proposed alternative. I think the notes did state that they provide 2.5 acres of private open space, but they did not appear to be interested in providing that as a public park, more as a private amenity for the residents.
so is it correct to understand that Park and Rec is not asking for an additional 2.5? They're just asking for the 2.5 to be public?
I'm not positive that distinction.
Okay, thank you.
I had just a quick question. I know that there was some discussion about a neighborhood that was south of here. bridge over railroad tracks, and they had some issues with traffic. Can somebody from CDOT kind of talk through that and just give us an update?
Yeah, good evening, Kevin Parker with CDOT here. So in the original, well, not original, the administrative amendment in 2014 of the overall vineyards at Lake Wiley, which is that development to the south, attempted to provide some coordination with the railroad to provide a secondary access across the railroad there for emergency purposes. Ultimately, the railroad denied that request, and so that Amos Smith Road is the only way of ingress and egress out in and out of that vineyards at Lake Wiley development. And so, no general updates in that regard, but ultimately, that's the history behind that, and currently where we stand still.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
This is Commissioner Welton. Commissioner Samuel, I was just looking at the site plan, and it looks like there's a 2.5 acre-ish amenity area right in the middle of that. Whether that's public or private, is that having the space okay with you if it's private or, okay? I'm assuming that's what that amenity area is.
I was just getting clarity on outstanding issue.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion? Correct.
Yeah, I don't want to stay here all night. I'm just saying to you, baby.
Mr. Gaston, it looks like you're about ready to make a motion. I recognize you.
Okay, here we go. This is Commissioner Gaston. Having reviewed the petition and considered consistency statements prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2021-257. As it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us. There we go.
Motion by Gaston, seconded by Russell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That also passes unanimously at 6-0. Excellent. And my city-provided device has decided to take a break. Apologize. Next up is zoning request number 2021-262. And, oh, I'm back up. I catch back up. By CRD Dilworth. And that will be Holly. Tell us a little about that.
Thank you. This site is just a little over an acre. It is along East Worthington Avenue as well as Cleveland, and it's just southeast of South Boulevard there. It is within a half-mile walk of the East-West Station as well as the proposed Rampart Station. The proposed zoning for this site is TOD-MO, so transit-oriented development mixed optional. It's one of those retired TOD zoning districts, and they are proposing to go to TOD-NC and TOD-UC, both of those conditional. I'll get to that in a moment, I guess, actually. The 2040 policy map recommends regional activity center for the site, so it is consistent with that policy map recommendation. The proposal itself is to provide conditions for minimum parking standards, as well as height standards, and that's just at the request of the Dilworth community. This site is directly adjacent to the Dilworth Historic District, so establishing the minimum parking standards helps alleviate some of the demand that would be put on the historic district area if more people were coming to this site. And then the height standards, actually, if we could go to the next slide that displays that a little bit better. So the TOD-UC is just the small portion that's in the crosshatch that's closest to South Boulevard. That's the portion that will be TOD-UC. And the TOD-NC is the rest of it. But TOD-NC with a more specific height maximum is the one with the diagonal lines along Cleveland Avenue, and that's to limit the height to 75 at a maximum, so that wouldn't allow for those bonus provisions to be reached on that area. So again, those are the conditionals with that. It's not a typical TOD zoning because they wanted to accommodate the needs of the Dilworth Historic District. But it is consistent with that policy map recommendation. Like I said, it's pretty close to one existing station and one proposed station, and staff recommends approval. I'll take any questions.
I have a few. So
Mr. Russell?
let me understand this. There are 3 different zoning designations on this one plot.
Yes, so TODUC is the crosshatch, and actually, do you want to go back one more slide? So it's surrounded by TODUC, as you can see, right along South Boulevard. It's so close to the station. It's pretty normal for TODUC to be sought right there. And then TODNC is the rest of it. But there is a height cap for the TODNC portion that's right along Cleveland Avenue, and that height cap is to 75, so they couldn't seek anything past 75 with the bonus menu. So but they have 2 because it is so close to the east-west station. It made sense to allow for TODUC closer to South Boulevard, but TODNC as it transitions into the historic district area.
So is the height cap on the Cleveland Avenue side being done because of fear of casting shadow on the residential that's across Cleveland?
I can get more clarity from the petitioner for you on that, but it is my understanding that they were trying to create more of a transition. So if they wanted to seek bonus options to go past 75 for the rest of the NC portion, they could do that, but not right against the historic district area.
Okay, and then I heard that the part that's north, the TODUC, was made to accommodate additional parking. Is that correct, or did I mishear that?
So they all have the conditional parking notes. So the entire site will have the parking minimums, which is 1 space per 1,000 square feet of the commercial uses, half a space per residential unit, and then half a space per hotel room. That applies to the entire site, that minimum parking standard.
Okay, so there was no additional parking that was added to this,
Nothing specific to the UC portion, but I can get, yeah.
but there
nothing-
was some added to the NC portion.
They all have the same minimum parking standard.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? I have one more comment. I do feel that this speaks directly to we're going to continue to see rezonings in our transitional areas. While the TOD and the UDO itself do a great job overall, there are unique spaces, I feel, in our city and very frequently adjacent to our historic districts where compromises like these, I do feel, are in the interest of both TOD and at the same time maintaining our preservation spirit adjacent. So really just, the compromise on this one I felt was confusing and a little cumbersome. However, I do feel the outcome is pretty close to where I feel we probably need to be on keeping track of how we're going to transition our increasing density adjacent to our historic districts. So, my comment. Anyone like to make a motion?
To approve, having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff, to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition 2021-262 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Excellent. The second? Moved by Chairwoman Samuels, seconded by Commissioner Harvey. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That passes 6-0 as well. Excellent. Thank you. And moving on to item number 8, rezoning petition 2021-263 by Colwick Development. And we're back to John.
Okay, this is 2.8 acres located on the northeast intersection of Colwick Road and Chiswick Road, south of Greenwich Road, and east of Randolph Road, basically behind the Publix on Randolph. Site currently has basically a little bit of a parking lot where an old office building used to stand, and another office building on the corner. Current zoning is O2 office. Proposed zoning is MUD CD, mixed use development conditional. The Charlotte Future Policy Map recommends neighborhood 2 for the site. The proposal would have two development areas. Development area A, which would be 260 multifamily dwelling units and a maximum building height of 85 feet. And then area B is existing office building with 30,000 square feet and maximum of 60 feet. Prohibits some auto-intensive uses. Vehicular access to area A is via 2 driveways off of Colwick and 1 driveway off of Chiswick. And then upgrades crosswalk ramps and intersections at Randolph Road and Greenwich Road. Provides paved pedestrian connection between, oh, that's been changed. I'll get to that in a second. Constructs 8-foot plane strip and 8-foot sidewalk on Colwick and Chiswick Road. That's also a change that I'll mention. And then it has a commitment that buildings over 65 feet will be built with environmentally sensitive, efficient standard, and provides architectural standards for the buildings and installs a 10.5-foot wide landscape strip between basically the office building and the single family house to the east. Next slide. In response to community concerns, the petitioner removed the improvements to Linda Lane and instead will contribute $100,000 to CDOT for intersection improvements at Randolph and public driveway access onto Randolph there to help relieve congestion at Randolph and Greenwich intersection. If there's questions about how that might function or what kind of improvements that might relieve at Greenwich, then I would defer to CDOT if that comes up. Constructs an 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalk along Colwick and Chiswick Road, and commits to an on-site dog run park area within Area A to address concerns about increased dog activity on the neighborhood streets. Also commits to replacing the existing wood fence or high maintenance fence on the Cotswold Elementary property with a new low maintenance fence to be coordinated with CMS. You can kind of see where that fence is here on the aerial right next to the driveway and the trees there. There's a bit of a shadow. That's where the fence is, at least in that particular location. It provides a 15-foot building setback along the northern property line and a 10-foot building setback along the rear property line for the multifamily building. Staff recommends approval of the petition. It's been updated. The petitioner is committed to address all the issues, so there's no outstanding issues remaining. It is consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for neighborhood 2 for area A and inconsistent with the recommendation for neighborhood 2 for area B. If this petition were approved, it would revise the policy map to reflect neighborhood 2 to neighborhood center for the area B portion of the site.
Thank you, John. Any questions on the committee? Go ahead, Douglas.
John, 2 questions. This is currently zoned O2. What would be the maximum height that somebody could build in O2 right now?
Don't know what the answer is off the top of my head for that. The petitioner may know. I don't know if they know the answer to that off the top of their head.
Okay. And the second question was, you said something about the 8-foot sidewalk. You said that would change?
On the previous slide for public hearing, when we presented a public hearing, they had not had the commitment to do the 8-foot sidewalk on Chiswick. And that's since been added. And so I think the site plan that they had submitted showed it on both streets, but the notes didn't reflect it. So they've just adjusted the notes to satisfy.
So it's really
yeah,
not anything that we didn't expect.
right, exactly.
Okay.
Thought it was on there too.
Yeah. Thought maybe they were going to provide like crayons or yard, sidewalk chalk or something.
Any other questions? Be happy to hear a motion then.
This is Commissioner Welton. I'll make a motion.
Before you do,
I recognize Commissioner Sanders.
no question, just a comment. My mic has been on all this time, sorry. This is one of, very few petitions fall under a heavy microscope like this one has. But I think that what has gotten me to a point of support here is that we talk about how to smartly densify, particularly in infill development. And especially with the changes since the public hearing, I think that this one is pretty smart. We talk about connectivity, we talk about pedestrian improvements, we talk about walkability. And this is something that I'm kind of excited to see. Kids have an opportunity to walk to school. I can think of 8 different restaurants that I would be able to walk to if I lived here. Might even be able to get rid of my car. There's 2 grocery stores, 2 of my favorites, both within walking distance. My favorite shopping retail spot is just across the street. I'm liking it. I'll be in support. Thank you.
I second that. I will say I've approached this cautiously after the public hearing and seeing the changes that have been made. I would agree.
And with that, anyone but Welton, please move.
To approve.
Love you all.
Having reviewed the petition.
Commissioner Russell.
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Russell, I recognize you to make.
I will approve, having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2021-263 as it appears before us, and adoption of consistency statement as it appears before us.
I second that motion.
Properly
Commissioner
moved by Russell, seconded by Gaston. All in favor, say aye.
Gaston.
Aye. All opposed? That is another 6-0 vote.
You guys are going to miss me when I'm gone.
We will.
10 or 15
No doubt.
years from now, if I ever leave this committee.
We're moving on to number 9, rezoning petition 2021-264 by Chuck Price and Michael.
Thanks. The current zoning is I1, light industrial, and R4, single-family residential. The proposed zoning is I2CD, which is general industrial conditional. This is approximately 4.7 acres located on the north side of Oak Drive, east of Old Statesville Road, and south of Pete Brown Road. The petition is consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for the manufacturing and logistics place type. This petition proposes to allow the construction of up to 60,000 square feet of storage shed and outdoor storage for the abutting lumber company. They do prohibit some more noxious uses, including automotive service station, auto sales, car washes, dry cleaning, truck stops, and adult establishments. They do commit to a 100-foot Class A buffer adjacent to the abutting residential properties. And they do commit to a 50-foot Class A buffer along Oak Drive, and lighting will be shielded to prevent direct illumination beyond the property lines. I think one of the changes afterwards, they were going to do a maximum of 6 buildings. Now it's down to 4 buildings. Other than that, it is consistent, and the outstanding issues have been addressed, and staff does recommend approval of this petition. Thank you.
Committee, any questions?
I have one, just to clarify. So you've got a 50-foot buffer along Statesville and a 100-foot buffer along Oak Drive, or am I reading that backwards?
Hmm.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so along Oak Drive, there'll be a 50-foot Class A buffer, and then where it butts the residential zoned portion will be a 100-foot
Okay.
buffer.
And then this is what, 75 here, reduced to
Right.
56?
The setback.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
You said reduction from 6 to 4 in building. That does not increase or change square footage. Okay. So this is a conditional petition, which we don't get very frequently when we see I-1, I-2. So my thanks to the petitioner. I'm not sure if they may be watching, for submitting a conditional petition so that we can ensure protections for the residential that we have planted since these areas were zoned I-1 and I-2. So thank you for those conditions.
Very good. I would also say I would not be surprised if, when we get to the next step with city council, there is an additional questions about that environmental impact but my questions have been satisfied on this one. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion if there's no other questions. Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey.
Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition 2021-264 as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
I second that. Commissioner Gaston.
Properly moved by Harvey, seconded by Gaston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes unanimous 6-0 as well. Yes.
I'm there for you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to number 10, rezoning petition 2021-280 by the Drakeford Company. And that would also be Claire. Oh, no, it's Dave, of course.
Thank you. 2021-280, it's just over 15 acres, just south of Jeanette Drive, east of Lawrence Orr Road and west of East W.T. Harris Boulevard. It's currently zoned R3. Proposed zoning is for MX1 Innovative. The adopted place type from the 2040 policy map does recommend neighborhood 1. You can see you've got some neighborhood 2 just to the southeast of that area, and then some campus and manufacturing logistics down off of East W.T. Harris Boulevard. The proposal that was presented at public hearing was for up to 64 residential units. 34 of those would be single-family detached, 30 would be multifamily or single-family attached units. Half of those units would have to be detached per MX1 standards, so couldn't get any lower than 32 if we had 64 units. Building heights capped at 40 feet, provides the following innovative standards: minimum 20-foot rear yards throughout the site, generally depicted on the rezoning plan. Does provide access via network of public streets with 6-foot sidewalks and 8-foot planting strips, which would connect to the existing Harvest Hill Drive. You can see that just down there at the bottom left-hand corner of the plan. Does also construct ADA curb ramps at the proposed intersection of Harvest Hill and Road A, and an accessible ramp at the beginning of the cul-de-sac bulbs. Corner and end units and facades facing public or private street would have a porch or stoop that wraps a portion of the front and side, or provide a blank wall provision that would limit that maximum blank wall expanse to 10 feet on all levels. Garage doors facing that public or private network required street would minimize visual impact by providing a setback of 6 to 12 inches from the front wall plane, or some additional architectural treatments. Also limits the number of dwelling units in a building to a maximum of 6 per building, or fewer when they front a public street, and also provides a Class C buffer if townhome style units are proposed adjacent to existing single-family residential. did have some changes since the hearing. That did reduce the total number of residential units from 64 to 63. That would then come out to 35 single-family detached and 28 multifamily residential lots as proposed. Also added some language stating the enhanced landscape area around those BMPs would consist of 4 trees and 20 shrubs per 100 linear feet. And all of those shrubs would be evergreen, and 25% of the trees shall be evergreen. That's just to provide a little bit of additional screening. We do have just a few outstanding issues related to site and building design, none that would necessarily change some of the characteristics of the plan. Anticipate those being resolved fairly quickly after zoning committee. It is consistent with the 2040 policy map, and we'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Samuel.
Yep.
It's been a while since we've seen this many cul-de-sacs in a site plan. I do understand the rationale behind the cul-de-sacs. They still give me heartburn. Is this the first iteration, the only iteration of that site plan?
No, we've seen the same general layout carried forward from the start, just with that connection to Harvest Hill. They do provide a stub up towards Jeanette Drive. I think the general intent was to potentially get that connection made should there be some redevelopment along that road. It can't really continue to go back towards the pond and some of the environmental features that are back there through that continuation of Harvest Hill. And they do have the street sub that's going down towards the multifamily down off Delta Crossing. And then I'm not sure if there was any other notion to punch through or provide a stub to the area there that's north of the pond of some of those larger lots. But I know our subdivision team did look at it, and they were okay with where the street subs are being provided and where they weren't. I'm not sure if there's some rationale as to not providing some of those stubs in some other places down towards, either end. I don't think we could continue Harvest Hill into that environmental area that's there beyond the pond, but the other two, we can certainly check in with stormwater subdivision to make sure they're comfortable with it. But I know they have reviewed the plans and didn't list any outstanding issues with the stubs as provided.
You show any notes from fire department?
Say that again.
Do you show any notes from the fire department?
Let me take a look real quick. I think if they were likely just advisory, and I don't see any in here. We did have some transition during some of the plan review time for some of our petitions that carried over from some of the summer, where we got some comments from fire, but sometimes we would not, just depending on the availability of reviewers. Typically, when we do get comments, they're advisory about street design, width, pavement type, things like that. They don't necessarily get into access or other things, but I don't see anything that's outstanding from them, but we can certainly follow up. I think we did, let me actually go back, because I think give me 1 second, because we did actually revisit this with fire after the hearing at the request of Councilmember Newton, and I think it was just, let's see. Yeah, they were just advisories, basically standard fire design comments, no issues with access or anything else. But we did have that question come up at the hearing, and there weren't comments at that time, but we did send those back out and got them back really last week. And again, nothing out of the ordinary, just standard.
Thank you for checking.
Yeah.
This is close to landlocked as you can get. So like I said, I definitely understand. Just pings me nonetheless.
Yeah, it does look like the initial plan had that connection up towards Jeanette Drive, and the plan now does not. And I don't know if that was at the request of subdivision to not connect there, or at the request of the neighbors to not connect up to Jeanette Drive. But actually looking back between the two plans, I did just notice that the initial one, if you go back one slide, does have that connection. And then the next one after, I don't see that connection, but we do have folks representing the petition either on the call or with us in the room that may be able to answer where that stub maybe went away and what the reason was for that.
Because it's not on the site.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have
No,
one.
just a comment.
Go ahead.
I want to second Commissioner Samuels, along with drive-throughs, cul-de-sacs. I hate them. So, but I understand why we had to do it. Just want to put that on the record. I just want to put it on the record.
Tell us how you feel, Will.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Russell, for your begrudging comment.
I know that Josh is still a part of our subdivision team, yes?
Yes, he's still the
Well,
program manager.
Then I know if there could have been a connection, there would have been. So I'm okay.
I had a quick question. After the public hearing, there was some significant concern about runoff. Was there anything additional that Stormwater provided us after? I did not see it, but it's possible I missed that.
Yeah, that's another
A couple
one that I
months
think
ago.
we got some updates on after the hearing. Let me go back and see if there's,
Thank you, David, by the way.
see if there's some of that in here. So Stormwater did provide some input to us after. They did say 311 did indicate service requests were made by residents of Harvest Hill Drive and Dawn Deer Lane, but due to the age of requests, they were back from 1993. They weren't clear if work has been performed to address those because they were so old. The notes did indicate issues didn't qualify and could not find any files for improvements. The notes did indicate channel erosion and recommendation of a drainage swale to help direct stormwater runoff away from homes. They said it does not appear stormwater has performed any drainage study or analysis of the system throughout the proposed rezoning property or under Barcliff Drive. Rezoning site plans indicates wetlands on the site as part of the land development plan and permit submittal and approval process. They'll have to provide a jurisdictional delineation of wetlands. At that time, any impacts to those require approval from the Army Corps. And then the proposed development would also be required to utilize detention to control the increase of stormwater runoff generated by the development. The post-construction stormwater ordinance would require detention for 10 and 20-year storm events or the 10-year event with a downstream drainage analysis to determine if any additional detention is needed. So nothing additional was done to address it through the rezoning side, but it wouldn't be any different than a project that would come in by right that would still have to go through all the steps to either get jurisdictional wetlands delineated and stay away from any impacts to those or else remediate those and also do requirements through the post-construction stormwater ordinance for 10 and 25-year events and potentially a drainage analysis if they don't go through that 25-year process.
Okay.
If I may, I went back and pulled up Josh Weaver's comments for the plan that showed the northern street stub. And he specifically commented, do not stub to existing single-family lots. So the only stub that subdivision was asking for was the stub to the south.
Okay. Any other questions? Can we have David read us anything else? Okay. Entertain a motion if.
This is Commissioner Gaston. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by the staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2021-280 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
And a second. Properly moved by Gaston, seconded by Russell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes 6-0 unanimous as well. Moving on to number 11, rezoning petition 2021-282 by Grace Star Development East, LLC. John, take it away.
This is 7.54 acres at Golf Links, south of Golf Links Drive, west side of Midway Park Drive, north of Audric Hill Road in the Ray Farms development. You see the site is currently zoned to MUD O mixed-use development optional and proposing mixed-use development optional site plan amendment. The 2040 policy map recommends, actually go back, sorry, to the zoning slide. It should be changed. The request is for MUD mixed-use development conditional, not optional. So it's not a site plan amendment anymore, although basically it's amending the site plan, but it's not a site plan amendment because it's not MUD O anymore. They don't have any optional provisions.
Oh, okay.
All right, next slide, sorry. The 2040 policy map recommends community activity center for the site. The proposal would be to allow for, let me pull it up here, sorry. Can we go to the changes slide, actually? So it reduces the total number of units. They reduced it from 315 multifamily units to 306, or sorry, total units to down. Am I reading that right? Multifamily units. Okay, so yeah, the multifamily was reduced from 307 to 298. So the total number of units was reduced from 315 to 306. And they still have the commitment for the townhome units. I believe it's 8 units there. Proposing MUD CD. And there's the site plan showing the pedestrian connectivity through the site, east and west, and north and south. The area that's hashed is basically the area that would be specifically kind of marked and set aside for more pedestrian activity and has a public access easement along it to accommodate those pedestrian movements. It does connect up. If you could go back a slide, please. One more, I think, actually. Does it show it on here? So yeah, it would connect Red Rust Lane, which ends at, there's a little stub that's to the townhome development there that's at the corner in orange. Thank you. Right here, you can kind of see that in the blue aerial there. So connect Red Rust through this street connection up and then to South Ray Park Lane. It constructs the extension of South Ray Park Lane. So there will be a through connection for vehicles east-west here as well. Go back, I believe, and pretty much done, I think. Sorry, forward.
Back forward.
Don't really have anything else to add here unless you all have questions about the site plan. Staff is recommending approval of the petition. There's no outstanding issues. Again, it's consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for a community activity center.
Thank you, John. Any questions, comments? Seeing none. Go right ahead.
There was 2 changes since the public hearing. One was the zoning. What was the other one again?
The other one was just a reduction of units. Yeah.
Thanks.
Nice addition of the connectivity, honestly, in this part of the city, I think would be beneficial. I know that there was some talk at the public hearing about eliminating bike lanes. I don't really see bike lanes on here, but it's possible I'm not reading that right. Has there been any change on that front?
I think the bike lanes that were referenced are on Red Rust Lane. If you can go back maybe one more slide. Sorry, backwards. Yeah, the regular backwards. You can kind of, I don't know, it's hard to see on here, but there are bike lanes along Red Rust in addition to, I think there's on-street parking on one side and then just bike lanes on the other. I think is the case. There's on-street parking on both sides in some places, and then there's bike lanes on both sides along the entire strips. And so I think the comment that came up there in the hearing was asking if the bike lane could be removed to provide more on-street parking spaces.
But it's not even on the property of the development.
No.
So, right. Okay. That was my understanding. I just wanted to make sure I had it down as a question I needed to ask you.
Yeah. I don't know if Jake or anybody from CDOT has any more information or if they've looked into that anymore, but I know that they did hear that during the hearing and made note that was a comment that was made, but I don't know that they are planning on making any changes. you'd have to ask.
So this is the
Yeah.
same,
I was going to say, we haven't had any specific discussions with the petitioner about removing those bike lanes. And I don't think in this case we would necessarily require them, but it's something that the community could petition us to look at.
I have a question here. Looking at the pedestrian connection, which is a nice touch, but then we go and throw it all away by connecting it to a road at the bottom. Any reason why that road is necessary and why it's necessary right at the mouth of a pedestrian connection? And that question is for CDOT.
Yeah.
I think the petitioner proposed the driveway connections there. It's not something that we discussed removing. It allows for additional connections to the north and south roadways. So it wasn't something we discussed removing as part of the petition, and it meets our standards. So.
Yeah, I think that's putting a lot of folks in conflict because you got a place that you're calling pedestrian, but you're still driving on it. I just think that's going to be a recipe for disaster. And I think we need to really start looking hard and not just saying pedestrian in word only, but do that in action and deed. And I think that this is just kind of counter to that, just to be honest. So that's my comment.
Can we get, I'm just trying to get clarification on where, so the pedestrian path runs through the middle of the site. Where's the point of conflict that is raising
Come all the
concern?
way down to between building 2000 and building 4000. That road
You can go to the next slide.
literally turns into the pedestrian connection at the south, right there. Like there's a road. You're going to drive right through that where people are going to be walking. You calling that a pedestrian access point, but you're going to drive.
But it's really just a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Question, is it, I guess can't really tell, is it of a different nature? Is it raised? Is it a different material?
It says stamped asphalt.
So, I mean, I'm wondering if there are any visual clues to say, hey, don't drive on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know people are gonna drive on it because they're in a car and they'll just drive on it.
Well, it looks like it's adjacent to the drive. It's protected off of it's behind the curb, right?
Well,
It's not
that
part of,
would be the
it's not
question.
part of the
That would be
road.
the question
Oh,
I
like
would
it
have.
is.
It's not part of the road. No, it's protected with curb and probably, I would imagine, planting strip of some sort. It's 17 feet wide. And then the drive aisle is off of that and looks like there's curb on either side of it.
Where?
Are you saying the pedestrian connection is just the dotted line and
Yes.
not,
It's not the full thing.
It's not
just
the
the
full
dotted
thing.
line. Yeah.
okay, if it's
Yeah,
just
it's
the
just-
dotted line,
It's just this piece right here, and then this is the drive aisle. There's curb on either side of that. So it's off, it's basically a sidewalk through the site.
Right.
okay.
Yeah, the labels say, for the dotted line, the label says proposed pedestrian walkway to be publicly accessible walkway continuing through the site, through the parking field. And then it has, for the area that's stamped, it has a label that says, use pavers or stamped asphalt to calm traffic and emphasize pedestrian movement. So, because there's, pedestrians are having to cross basically each of those driveway, parking field connections. And so they're trying, the point of that is to try to just bring attention to that there's pedestrians in that area as they're crossing through that pedestrian, through the parking field.
So essentially we design it around cars again.
I'll just say this. First, the parking in this area is right at what you would consider like as close to the minimum as you can allow in this type of development in this zip code. We're right at 1.2. The addition of the diagonal parking at the top of the site plan, can you drag that down? Can that graphic be moved down? So can you go back a little bit, please? Back to the, okay.
Yeah.
It's a little
It's
bit
on,
more
yeah, it's
visible.
on the site, plan.
I think it's still cut off. Anyways, to draw the visual, that brings us a little bit closer to 1.4, and that was at the request of some of our neighboring business partners. If I lived in this community and I lived on the bottom portion of that site. I don't want to walk 2 blocks to get through to the other side, which might connect me to more retail that I need, or a restaurant, or get my nails done, or the medical center that's close by. So if we must have the parking lot in the middle of the development, yeah, I want a safe way. I want an identified way to be able to cross through that parking lot. So I think it's a smart move, and however way that we can identify it, yes, I prefer, like Walton suggested, that it be raised, but if it's just stamped, at least that's better than me trying to navigate through those parking spaces, because I'm not walking 2 blocks to get through to the other side.
Yeah. I mean, I think that my initial confusion was that the whole thing was what Will was talking about, but I believe that is not the case. And the red line is just the case.
Correct.
So I'm copacetic now.
Cool.
Agreed. And the addition, honestly, of the angled parking, I think is a positive development for this one. Any other questions, comments? Motions, for example, any? Good job.
You all are going to
Persistent.
miss me so much when I'm gone. Hey, everybody. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2021-282. Those are all good numbers. As it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
And is seconded. Properly moved by Welton and seconded by Harvey. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Another 6-0 unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to number 12, rezoning petition 2022-004 by White Point Partners. And I believe that's Claire Dave.
Thank you. Yeah, 2022-004, 25.25 acres, located on Eastway, also with some frontage down on the plaza, just south of Eastway Park Drive. Currently zoned B1 SCD. It's an old shopping center district. And the proposed zoning is for TODTR with some development standard conditions. The policy map does recommend a neighborhood center on this site. And the proposal itself is for TODTR, like I said, conditional. The conditions are essentially just development standards. Everything would be developed to the standards of the TODTR district, but they did have some standards to restrict some uses and just clarify no more than one use with an accessory drive-through window. That could be for bank, pharmacy, EDE, anything that would need an accessory drive-through, and then does prohibit following uses that would be allowed standard in TR. Enclosed vehicular dealerships, vehicular repair, parking lots as a principal use, enclosed self-storage facilities and gas stations. Would construct a paved accessible pedestrian or bike connection from the site to the existing trail located at the end of Americana Avenue right-of-way. And then also would work with CATS to provide an ADA compliant bus amenity along the plaza and Eastway Drive. Proposed bus amenities would be limited to one or more of the following, either a concrete waiting pad, a concrete pad for a bench, or a concrete pad for a shelter. Again, those would all be coordinated with CATS during permitting. Staff does recommend approval of this petition, no outstanding issues. It is consistent with the policy map recommendation for neighborhood center, and we will take any questions that you may have.
And Russell.
I have one. This one is more for staff. So we've got a TOD use, then why are we allowing accessory drive-through uses in a TOD?
So drive-throughs are allowed in TODTR by default and by right. They just have it clarified that they would only be able to do one. Otherwise, they would be able to put as many as they could possibly put on there. So they decided just to limit it to one. Like I say, it could be a pharmacy, it could be a bank, could be an EDE, but it would just limit that to one use that would have that accessory drive-through. And like I said, TODTR would already allow that by right, but they just capped it at just having one.
Right. No, I'm just saying as a general question, why are we allowing drive-through uses in what is supposed to be a transit-oriented development? That's just a general question for anybody on staff.
Yeah, so like I said, the TOD-TR district is more of that transitional TOD district where there's not a huge market demand for full-on transit-oriented development like we would see right in, along the, stops right within a quarter or half mile of the blue line. So this is certainly an area where the TR is probably the most applicable TOD district. And currently we still have drive-throughs allowed in that district. In the UDO, I think we've written those out as a permitted use in TOD-TR. So they're still existing now. And that's just the nature of what those initial TOD districts, when they were established back in, gosh, I guess it was 2019, that was the only district that would allow for a drive-through by right.
Well, then,
Dave, the conditions in both, I'm assuming that is two different pieces of requested stuff up there. The conditions the same in both? Or-
Yeah, the conditions would carry over. Those different lines are just showing the bottom left piece is zone B1. I think
Okay.
I mentioned that in the presentation. The bulk of the site is that shopping center district.
Yeah.
And then you've got just that B1 piece, but the TOD-TR conditions would apply across that entire site.
Okay, all right, just, thank you.
Yep.
well, I have one comment. Do you have a question? Okay. So, this is a portion of our city that's going to definitely be transitioning. And many people would say it needs to. And I would say in this case, this is definitely a property that has plenty of much better uses than it's currently serving right now. Not that I want to see Roses go away, but it's, and I am happy to see the limitation of the uses and the limitation to just one drive-through. I am not in favor of many drive-throughs, so I appreciate the restraint shown by the petitioner on this one. And hold me in for it. I'm in favor of it. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Commissioner Harvey,
Excellent.
having reviewed the petition and having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of this petition number 2, I'm sorry. Am I missing that? 2022-004 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second, Wilson.
Thank you. Properly moved by Harvey, seconded by Welton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Another 6-0 unanimous. Moving on to item number 13, rezoning petition 2022-007 by St. Charles Avenue. John.
All right, this is 0.34 acres on the west side of Castleton Road, north Sharon Amity Road, and east of Craig Avenue. It's just a kind of a linear parcel along Castleton. Excellent. It's currently zoned R3, single family residential, and they are proposing UR2 CD conditional. The policy map recommends neighborhood 1 place type for the site. The proposal would allow them to subdivide that parcel into 2 parcels for single family detached units. So two lots. Access would be, for each lot would be via a driveway onto Castleton Road. It provides construction of an 8-foot planting strip and a 6-foot sidewalk. And then that sidewalk would meander to preserve some existing trees on Castleton. Maximum height limited to 40 feet, consistent with the current zoning. Architectural standards, basically to accommodate and make sure that the units are kind of varied and different from one another and fit in with the architectural character of a residential home, and provides a 20-foot setback on the future back of curb on Castleton. There haven't been any changes since the public hearing. Staff recommends approval of the petition, and it is consistent with the policy map recommendation for N1.
Excellent. Questions? I have one. Why did, just for staff, why are they at UR2 instead of just saying we're going to go to R4 or R5?
So the traditional zoning, R districts have a much larger front and rear setback. And with the parcel being more linear or parallel to the street, there's not enough depth to accommodate that and to be able to subdivide the parcels. So UR gives them some more flexibility in terms of yards and setbacks. Our main goal and objective with this petition was to have a larger setback than what UR2 would require as a minimum. And UR2, you can have a 14-foot front setback. So we asked them to increase that and commit to a larger setback so that we would still maintain that more the feel that you have along Castleton with the existing homes in that R3 zoning, which I think
Okay.
requires a 30-foot front setback.
Right. So our new code that's on its way will would also accommodate this development, if I'm correct, without having to go to a UR2.
I haven't read it all in detail, so I don't know the
All
answer
right,
for sure.
Just excited to point out opportunities that we'll have going forward to simplify the rezoning process. Anyone wish to make a motion or have another question?
John, you said they're gonna have 30-foot setbacks, right?
They're committing to a 20-foot front setback
Okay.
along the street. Yeah, they didn't have the depth in the site to be able to accommodate
To go 30.
anything larger.
Does that affect the rear yard too? Because it says, I'm assuming I'm reading this correct, 10-foot setback in the
It's
rear
a
yard?
10-foot rear yard.
That's
and
like 14 or something?
It's pretty big in the traditional R districts. And
Okay.
It varies, depends on one, but I think R3 is a 40-foot rear yard. And I don't know, do you know what R4 is off the top of your head? Is it 40 as well, or is it? Yeah, so it's a pretty big rear yard
Okay.
requirement.
So they're gonna get in there tightly.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. Motions, anyone?
Can I make a motion,
Oh, sir. Love to hear back.
please? Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-007 as it appears before us and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
I second that.
Properly moved by Welton, seconded by Gaston. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Very well, another 6-0 unanimous. Moving on to number 14 on our agenda, rezoning petition 2022-10-010 by MAGLC LLC. And Holly.
Thank you. This site is 16.65 acres located just south of Interstate 45 and is also along I-77. It's cut out of the frame there. Well, there you can see a little bit better. So it's bound by the interstate there. The proposed zoning is B2 conditional, and this is from BP Business Park and R3, that R3 portion just in the northeast quadrant there and to the corner along North Lake Center Parkway. The policy map recommends regional activity center for this site. Functionally, regional activity center doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when we look at this area, especially when you zoom out and you think about the interstates bounding the site. And regional activity center, I'll just point out, is intended for dense urban environments to contribute to a pedestrian-oriented space that's accessible or also by transit. That's not what we have here when we think about the very edge of our ETJ. So regional activity center doesn't really work functionally for this site. So if approved, this rezoning petition would modify the policy map district to commercial. The proposal itself is to allow for a maximum of 78,000 square feet for auto sales, repair, and rental uses, along with some accessory uses. As you can see, the principal buildings will be along the site's frontage, along a new road that will be built from east to west. And that's a lot of the actual product of the auto dealerships is behind the buildings. It does allow for an enhanced vehicle display with landscaping along that new public road that will be built. It commits to a Class B buffer along the eastern side, and it conveys a perpetual greenway and stormwater easement outlined in green there close to North Lake Center Parkway. That was a request that they were able to work with Parks and Rec on to accommodate. That's the bulk of the main proposal details that are relevant. Changes since hearing, so they addressed outstanding issues related to transportation, and then after the public hearing, in response to questions that they got, CDOT also asked for them to add a conditional note to provide street lighting along the east-west public street frontage. So they've added in that request, and we'll look to hopefully get that addressed before it goes to decision. That's the only outstanding issue left for this petition. Staff does recommend approval. Like I said, it's bound by I-45 and I-77, so Regional Activity Center and really doesn't make sense for this site. It was sort of done in silo, so this would convert it to commercial. And the commercial place type is meant to accommodate retail services, hospitality, dining that's readily accessible by car. And that's what I think of when I think of an area right along the interstates. At the edges of our city. I'll take any questions.
Questions? Russell, go right ahead.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a question, but this one's giving me heartburn because everything around it is residential, and then we're gonna shove a car lot on the end. And so I'm just concerned about not only traffic, but lighting, especially with petition 2022-006, which is still pending for additional residential, which is directly south across the street. Yeah, this one is giving me some heartburn about why we want a car. I get it; it's right off the interstate, so it's a great line of sight. But I just don't know that this one makes sense in the context of what's around it.
So I will note they are in coordination with the 2022-006 development, but I can try to ask them if they've done additional considerations for lighting. I believe that was brought up to an extent also at the public hearing, but they are being done in coordination. So there's consideration.
Thank you.
Holly, is the road that is to the south side, is it being constructed by this project, or is it being put in relation to the other couple of rezonings that have happened and the one that's pending? Is it?
Yeah, so it was initially back and forth on the conditional notes, and it would say public street by others. They've removed that. So it says public street, it's going to be built out. It's not just putting off the responsibility anymore so yes, that has been modified at the request of CDOT.
And just to Will's point on lighting, what's the width of that public street? Maybe somebody from CDOT could tell me. I don't know what the setbacks for the other.
Sidewalks and everything, or
Yeah.
about the other property?
The other properties, how far are they going to be from? Because I'm assuming that this is going to, if this is an auto dealer, they're going to be jewel boxy kind of lot or buildings up close. And if they're doing the vehicle storage on the back, there'll be a lot of lighting there, which would be far away from the residential that is to the south. And again, I may be just making this up all on my own here, but I'm just looking at how it's kind of laid out. That was what I was thinking. So.
If you would like, I can have CDOT speak to the setbacks and widths and everything.
That would be great.
CDOT.
CDOT.
Yeah, this is Patrick Monroe with CDOT. This is going to be a local office commercial wide street section with a 77-foot right of way. So that would include an 8-foot planting strip and an 8-foot sidewalk, and then your setbacks would be taken off of that the right of way dimension, and it looks like it's 20 feet for this particular project, but Sonnen could probably clarify those setbacks a little bit better than I can, but there will be 77 feet of right of way for the new public street.
Okay.
In some ways, I like that this project is while it's not pedestrian oriented in use, or it is much better connected to the pedestrian infrastructure around it and creating some pedestrian infrastructure around it than this sort of use usually is and historically has been in our city. So in some ways, I do see it as a step forward in creating our pedestrian network, even if it's not oriented to it.
I think it works with the constraints of the site.
Yeah. I don't disagree. Any other questions? Douglas, we can't redesign the entire city, all right?
I'm looking to see how far it is. When you're driving out there, it's like, how far is it to walk north? Whatever.
Oh,
thing
to the
is
mall.
To the mall, because you could be at the mall and need to buy a car.
True, very true.
No, that's not a
I
pedestrian.
drop
friendly
off
use.
my Porsche and I need to walk to the mall.
I am, okay, perhaps.
All right.
I just wanted to look
We're
at
off
it.
track now, I
perspective.
think. Would anyone care to make a motion on number 14?
Commissioner Gaston.
Thank you.
I second that.
Properly moved by Gaston, seconded by Welton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have 2 nays. We are 4-2 on the vote. And it passes. Pardon me? You want to say any more, or I'm just checking?
I think this is an awesome place for a regional activity center, because it's out to the mall. Although there is it's close to the intersection of 77 and 45, there's no access. I generally don't like this location. That this area should continue to be built out to support that's already happening here, which is heavy retail, big residential jobs.
Got that, Dave? Excellent.
Oh, I'm sorry, my mic wasn't on. I'm sorry. I don't remember what that was.
Dave says he has it. It's been documented, yeah?
Can I just say, I don't like it? I'm just joking. Do I need to repeat it for the,
No,
Okay.
we've got it.
okay,
Perfect.
We never correct you.
thank you.
All right, moving on to number 15, rezoning petition 2022-012 by Rangewater Real Estate. John.
This is 18.45 acres on the east side of IBM Drive, west of Interstate 85 and south of West W.T. Harris Boulevard. Site is currently wooded and vacant. It's basically right across the street from a lot of office campus type uses. The current zoning is RE2 research, and the proposed zoning is R17 MFCD, multifamily residential conditional. The 2040 policy map recommends community activity center for the site. It would propose up to 300 multifamily units, no more than 6 buildings on the site. Maximum building height is 72 feet. Provides vehicular access from IBM Drive into the site. It also dedicates area on the Dobie, I don't know how you pronounce it, but Dobie Creek Greenway to park and rec. And then provides a 30-foot setback on IBM Drive from the right-of-way and restricts the placement of parking between the building and between buildings and IBM Drive. Provides or commits to minimum 8,000 square feet of open space improved with amenities. Next slide. There's not been any changes since the public hearing on this one. Staff recommends approval of the petition. It is consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for Community Activity Center.
Questions, comments? Samuel?
Just to say that this abuts 85, but fits in with what's happening in this area in recent history. This area is transitioning. So becoming a lot less research and a lot more residential. The connections and the improvements to Dobie Creek are coming along. I think the residents would enjoy it. I'll be in support.
Any other questions? Motions?
Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2022-012 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Harvey, second.
Properly motioned by Gaston, seconded by Harvey. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 6-0 unanimous. Moving on to petition number 16. Yes, rezoning petition number 2022-022 by Appaloosa Real Estate Partners. Michael.
Thanks. So this is approximately 26.65 acres located on the east side of Beard Road, north of Mallard Creek Road. The current zoning is R3, single family residential. The proposed zoning is R22 MFCD, multifamily residential conditional, and a UR2, urban residential conditional. The 2040 policy map recommends the neighborhood 1 place type for this site. And this petition proposes a residential development of up to 347 multifamily dwelling units and 110 townhome units for a total of 457. They are committing to an 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalk along Beard Road, Odell School Road, and Rickenbacker Road. They provide access from Beard Road, Odell School Road, and Rickenbacker Road. They do provide amenitized open space. They are dedicating a 1-acre park to Mecklenburg County. And then they provided architectural details for both the multifamily section and for the townhome section. Next slide. So the changes since the hearing was that they've addressed all their outstanding issues. The petition is inconsistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation for the N1 place type, but staff does recommend approval of this petition. Be glad to take any questions.
Any questions?
My mic is on. The city's website indicates that this petition is for 15.64 acres, which is accurate.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 26.
So our
That 1
agenda
acre-
document.
That 1 acre
might be better.
dedication would have been much nicer on 15 acres.
While you're doing that, I also wanted to inquire if CDOT had any input on the additional inquiries about traffic or cumulative traffic impacts from this one. I know that was asked at the public hearing. I don't know if, well,
We can let CDOT follow up with that.
while we're checking our notes, CDOT, could you speak to any cumulative traffic research you've done?
This is Patrick Monroe with CDOT. This petition in particular did not trigger the need for a traffic study. So we have not identified any offset improvements. There will be turn lane improvements at the driveways, left turn improvements, as well as right turn lanes. Beard Road is an NCDOT road, so the requirements and regulations are maintained by NCDOT for this particular roadway. And in general, most of the collectors and thoroughfares in this area are maintained by NCDOT, so we kind of have to fall back on their requirements in this general area.
Thank you. Did we get a,
Yes, so the acreage is 26.65.
Okay.
So it's wrong on the
so our
website.
documents are accurate? Good. Just not what's on file at the city.
Oh, in reference to the traffic concerns, I think that, this Odell School Road proposed extension can alleviate some of that, because I think it would give, a bit quicker egress and ingress for that matter. Odell School Road connects from Ridge Road and Mallet Creek.
No, Beard.
Beard Road and Mallet Creek, I'm sorry. No.
That is correct. As part of this petition, they will be extending Odell School Road with a public street as a collector street. So that will create that extension from the existing stub to connect to Beard Road to provide
Okay.
connectivity through the area. And that will be public, so.
That's huge.
Any other questions, comments, motions?
One quick question. And it's a traffic related question. And I'm just looking at the site plan, and it looks like there's a stub road to the south part of the adjacent property. There would be no extension of that stub road, correct? It's like Reseda.
Yeah, so Rasada Place will be
Rasada Place?
extended from a previous petition that was approved,
Ah.
2021-59.
Okay,
So you would have not only that connection through Odell School Road from Beard to Mallard Creek, but you could potentially wind your way also around down to Rasada and come out further south, which also connects back through over to
Okay.
Mallard Creek. So there's multiple.
Yeah, I see it now
They've
on-
done a pretty good job of building some network connections through Mallard Creek and Beard Road. But yeah, Rasada's it'll be
It's
extended
ju-
through
yeah.
another petition.
yeah, it's just off the thing that I'm looking at, so.
And there was a rezoning petition.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it was approved back in 2020 or
Thank you.
2021. So, yeah.
And obviously, I point out the win with the 1 acre public park. I think this is an excellent example of where we would like to see more of our parks in our residential areas as they're developing. Any motions if we're done with questions?
All right, having reviewed the petition and considered. Us.
Second, Ms. Welton.
Properly moved by Commissioner Russell and seconded by Welton. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That's another 6-0 unanimous decision. And moving on to our last one for the evening, number 4. Rewind my screen and I will give y'all the intro. Rezoning petition number 2021-238 by Lennar Carolinas LLC. And Joe, let's resetting of everyone's screens.
So this one should look familiar to all of you. There were some changes to, it was an updated site plan following the last zoning committee meeting in July that warranted bringing it back in front of you all. It's approximately just over 5 acres on the south side of NC Music Factory Boulevard, adjacent to the Elmwood Cemetery and near the NC Music Factory complex. Current zoning is I2 and proposed zoning is MUD O. The 2040 policy map identifies this area as a regional activity center. The proposal is for 7,500 square feet of non-residential uses. That's in the top left, identified by the blue text box, as well as 77 single-family attached dwelling units. The non-residential uses will be in adaptively reusing the building there at the intersection of NC Music Factory Boulevard and Johnson Street. All MUD uses will be allowed with the exception of gas station, car wash, self-storage building, or accessory vehicular drive-through window. They're requesting an optional provision to deviate from the typical streetscape standards along NC Music Factory Boulevard due to the railroad right-of-way. Building height would be limited to 55 feet. The right-of-ways of both Johnson Street and 9th Street would be abandoned and limited to pedestrian and bicycle use. However, there would be vehicular access maintained to the cemetery entrance at the bottom of the screen for emergency vehicles. The number of dwelling units per building be limited to 6, and a 6-foot-tall aluminum fence and 10-foot wide landscape buffer area will be provided on the southeastern property boundary. Since July, there in the bottom right of the site plan, the proposed townhomes that were closest to the mill have been removed from that area replaced with potential open space. That reduced the number of dwelling units down to 77. Also, a conditional note was added to allow for payment to the city of $15,000 in lieu of the petitioner providing enhancements for the urban arboretum trail. Staff does recommend approval of this petition and be happy to answer questions.
Questions? Who would like to? Russell, go right ahead.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So we're talking about the abandonment of Johnson Street and West 9th Street. So with the city abandoning that, would then the maintenance of those streets fall to the property owner? Or who would take care of those streets? Or the vehicle access to the cemetery?
I believe the city would maintain maintenance. It would just be pedestrian and bicycle, but nope.
No,
I'm sorry. It would be the petitioner.
Yeah, I
Yep,
can jump
sorry
in
about
here.
that.
So to clarify, the abandonment is actually a separate procedure when compared to the rezoning petition. So that there is a note on here that if the abandonment is not approved, that they would have to install standard streetscape measures. But if the abandonment of 9th and Johnson is approved, then that would be private property maintained by the property owners.
Anyone else?
Come on, I know y'all got something.
yeah.
I want to hear from everybody on this.
So I'll lead off. I'm not shy.
Right ahead.
Y'all know that. This one is still giving me heartburn. Although it's been pointed out to me that it is fulfilling my preference for connectivity with the urban Arboretum Trail, which is new to me. So I do like that. But man, I'm having some heartburn with that rail line and with the flower plant literally right outside the front door, even though we've removed some of those houses and replaced it with almost 15,000 square feet of open space. I don't know. I got to think about this one. This is going to come down to the last minute for me. Thank you.
Well,
Commissioner Welton, I just wanted to know, are there any buffer requirements between residential and industrial? If we were put, if there was residential there already, would we be able to put industrial right next to it? And, if not, what would be the buffer?
Depends on the zoning district. Michael, you probably.
usually 100. If I recall, it generally is 100.
Right, and so then this petition is, they're providing, because it's, I guess, is that what they're going for? Mud, which wouldn't require those. They're providing a buffer, with a fence, 10-foot evergreen landscape buffer. Then there's a 100-foot railroad right of way. So it's essentially a buffer, then, planted, and then 100 feet for the right of way, which I don't think is the active part of the railroad right of way. And then the use next door from there. So there's still some significant space, even though the actual buffer planted is 10 feet. There's still that 100-foot right of way that separates everything. And that's, again, not necessarily part of the active rail line. That's an old right of way before you get into some of the more active rail that's a little bit further south, if I'm reading the map and looking at it correctly.
So this is showing a 50-foot property line. Well, right of way. It's showing 50 feet from the existing property line to the end of the railroad right of way, and then another 10 feet of planted buffer. So isn't that only 60 feet as opposed to the normal 100 that you would get?
Yeah, so the railroad right of way is 100 feet. The space to the property line is 50. So then it ends up being a 60-foot separation total. I was just quoting the right of way itself was 100 feet for the railroad.
I guess I asked the question because we're kind of flipping the script here on that one of, okay, now we're going to put residential right next to an industrial site. Is the same amount of buffer required? Is just, that's the question that I have. And if there isn't in that particular case, if they're both treated exactly the same or they're both treated different, it was, I guess, what I want to know. Did that make sense?
It did. And yeah, there'd be a larger planted buffer in either instance. If the industrial came in, they would need to buffer against the residential. If the residential came in, they would buffer against the industrial at probably a greater width, either with a berm or, additional plantings or fencing, but it would be more than just that 10 feet. But I guess they're also looking at that 50-foot from the right of way to the property line is essentially providing some more space, but it's just not planted like we would see, by in our district that we might have.
Now, on the flip side of Smith Street, across from the ADM plant, how far is that away from the plant? I'm just curious because we got that there's residential there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it could be like McIntosh and Granny Smith.
Always a do.
Thank you, Mark. But anyway, yeah.
Anyway, but I'm trying to come up with valid justifications for my thinking.
So we approved a UMUD over there back in early 2020, like January, and it looks like setback from there would be 16 feet behind back of curb. So you're probably looking at, you have 16-foot back of curb and then 34 feet from that to center line. So let's say 34 and then another, so maybe 68 feet from building to where those buildings are on the mill side on the other side of Smith Street, if that makes sense.
So, which is roughly in the same ballpark as we're talking about at that bottom right corner down there. Yeah.
But I would opine that those buildings aren't the ones that generate the noise or the dust or those are the towers where the storage is. And
I like the fact that you use the word opine.
well, I try and be more colorful to match your vocabulary. So.
As a person who has not heard the word opine today, I appreciate that and am able to go forward with much fluidity in my verbiage. I agree with you that, yeah, it's different. But just looking for things to consider.
No,
Commissioner Gaston,
Right ahead.
so, this is my neck of the woods, so I'm very familiar with it. I'm just gonna put it out there. Residential next to industrial, it happens all over where we are. And I think the petitioner has made an honest effort to reduce some of the concerns they had by removing some of the townhouses that were closer to that area. My son's first home was in the condos that are right there. And so I asked him, I said, hey, how was that noise? And he said, well, when I first moved in, I could hear it. He said, but after a while, you don't hear it anymore. You know, because you're just used to it. Like you don't hear the railroad track, the train, even though I can hear from my house unless I'm intentionally listening for it. But so I think that they've made an effort to do this. I think one of the questions that I asked the petitioner was, are you going to let the residents know that there's this building that's there and that they're going to hear this noise? And I don't know if you can have them sign a disclosure or something, because I don't want it to be like the families that move out into the middle of the farm and then say, hey, it stinks. Well, you knew it was a farm to begin with. So you know there's going to be sound here.
Great example.
I'm just saying. So for me, I'm okay with this. I know, you know, I think that that's a part of the, as they say, the missing middle for housing that is definitely needed in that area. So for me, I'm all for it. Y'all can hate me if you want, but I'm good with it. So
there is no hate, just
No
judgment.
one can hate. All over it.
Won't you? I'm just saying.
Russell, did you have any more? I'm sorry, it's all right. I'm just confirming. Anyone else? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll jump in and this one definitely has been an uphill climb for me. I am a big proponent of making sure that what we put in isn't to the detriment of what's already existing. I mean, we've bumped into this almost every time we rezone something in some way, we're impacting the community around it. This struck me as a very obvious difference from what is currently existing. And certainly if you want to talk longevity, it's been here forever, literally. So whatever happens next to it, I feel almost has to conform. I have seen significant movement by the petitioner. You're absolutely correct. That first iteration, I was a complete no for. This is much closer. I wish I had just the right thing to say. Mr. Samuel, do you have input?
So it is very apparent that everybody came in here on the fence on this petition. First, can we get the current site plan on the screen? Thank you. So initially, what we're talking about is that, so here's ADM down here. Here's that very loud fan that some of us experienced firsthand. And these units that were in the original plan were here, have now been kind of absorbed in the rest of the development area. Just to clarify, my initial, after that visit to this site, and we're talking the top of June, but this is still fresh for me. After, I guess we were there for about an hour and a half maybe, and I left there thinking, no way residential goes here. This is the perfect place for a brewery. This is the perfect place to put entertainment. That was my thought. I was not on the fence at all. You think through things, you learn of deferrals, you realize that petitioner may be contacting business owners to get insight to come up with a different iteration, and this is exactly what happened. Makes me happier that those particular units moved further away from the noisiest part of the site plan, but I still have angst about this development sitting on an active rail. We were there an hour and a half tops, as I just indicated. That rail ran about 7 times. We wore earplugs. Standing in the parking lot. We were just standing in the parking lot of ADM. We wore earplugs. I left there thinking, no way. But with the proper concert stage at the back of the brewery, you know how it sits next to the ADM, that was my wish list. Coming into this newly designed site plan, I'm like, okay, well, maybe listening to some council members and some of their discourse and discussions since public hearing, thinking that, yes, we need more for sale homes in general in the city. I came in here on the fence. I don't have to live here, so I don't have to be concerned with the train noise. But it is our charge to make sure that whatever is discussed here is in line with our general land use policy, number one, but it's also, bottom line is we are a middleman. We're the middleman between council and petitioners, between council and developers. What is good for the city as a whole? What is good for this neighborhood? What is good for the neighbors? That is our job. It is not our job to make decisions outside of that lens. So here I sit on the fence. And I was hoping to hear discourse around this dais tonight that pushed me one way or the other. I was kind of hanging on to Welton, and then I'm like, well, where is he going? And then I couldn't figure it out. I'm listening to Gaston. I'm listening to Gusman, and everybody's like, well, what do you got? This is one of the reasons why we should never enter this dais without 7 people. This is the main reason why this particular agenda item was at the top, moved to the bottom, awaiting our last zoning committee member. These are things that cost money when we are absent. I hope that this gets to council with a vote that is not an automatic deferral. I'm hoping that something that I said just now has enlightened or cut the light switch on for one of you to add more discussion.
I will just add, Madam Chair, that one of the things that I found a positive that was a change since the public hearing was the addition of the integration with the Urban Arboretum Trail and how that could potentially activate this area. I know that a couple of years ago, maybe if it was that long, they had the tour of the Urban Arboretum Trail, and I didn't go because, well, it wasn't something I wanted to go do at that time. But I do think that I know I ride the Greenway on my bike almost every day. And I could see that particular trail as being something that people use to come in from northwest of town to get in. And that may be an amenity that's got a positive. And so that is something that edges me to one side of the fence or the other and, lowers my chafing quota.
I would agree. The Urban Arboretum Trail is certainly an amenity that lots will get to enjoy. Hopefully it comes to fruition sooner than later. However, trail or no trail, this area will continue to be activated. So that didn't impress me.
Well, all the people in the cemetery are dead. I'm sorry, but the only thing that's going to happen in the
Only
cemetery,
Welton.
the thing that's going to happen in the cemetery is they're going to have the ghost stories of the folks that tell tales downtown doing the tourist stuff. So, that's there. It's not like it's going to go away, but it is something that can be reused the use of it can be reimagined in a different way.
So, speaking on Urban Arboretum Trail, the fact that you are harping on it, and I know there are people in this room that are not going to like what I say, but the fact that you're harping on it just goes to show you developers follow infrastructure. That is not impressive for me. And the contribution is way too minute.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in here at the risk of getting my head cut off too, but so here's what I'm gonna say. Like, I do like connectivity. I do like that they made an effort to try to change it, but I also think that we have made ourselves so desperate for housing of any type
This seems.
that we're just willing to take anything because we need the housing. When in fact, we need to be looking at our ordinance because we are still car centric, we are still setback heavy, we are still single family focused, and those things take away land from the very housing that we need.
And
Right?
to that, I say, let's stick to this petition.
So
We are not under indictment.
Thank
for-
you, Carolyn. Thank you. Sticking to this petition, I'm getting to the end here. While I appreciate what is going on, I am going to have to remain a no because I do like the connectivity, but this is just to me a desperation play. I don't think we should succumb to that. We need to hold a higher standard going forward. There's going to be some corrections in the market, so let's be honest and intentional about what we're doing here. So I'm coming down on the no side on this.
I can appreciate that finality, Commissioner Russell. I'm sorry for whoever's having to take notes on this. I'm so sorry. Joe, I'll buy you some coffee tomorrow. So I came in on the fence saying, hey, give me 10 stories. Give me first floor activation with retail services, but give me 10 stories. Give me 10 stories, give me 500 units. I think that if we put residential here, this density is way too low. My gut again told me that this is not residential. That was my gut. Site plan changes, Urban Arboretum Trail. I don't know if I'm off the fence. For me, I don't think it's enough.
How is this any different than Fourth Ward, which is right across Grant Street there? And is this, or is it any different? I know 9th Street is closed. 9th Street, I'm old. I used to be able to ride 9th Street across there on my bike, but now you can't anymore, right? But how is it any different? Fourth Ward has a character to it that's all single family homes, really. There are a couple of townhome units in there and things of that nature, and some apartments and stuff, but garden apartments. How's it different?
That is a very good point. I appreciate that too. Still doesn't bring me off the fence. So basically your argument is, or your point is that this basically continues the neighborhood character.
It continues.
Even with the finite line of the rail.
If God gave me the money, I would tear down 277 and I would reunite Greenville with this part of the space. But Greenville is not necessarily, a multi-story, 10-story kind of adventure either. The folks we just approved some, not too long ago, there are townhouses up on, I can't remember the street, but I think it's off of Hamilton, somewhere up there. But, across 77 or 277, it's all single family homes.
Yeah.
So, would we put a 10-story over there?
Where's the neighborhood here? Where's the neighborhood for this lot?
Yeah,
Is
the neighborhood
it
is divided.
Is it Cadence and Music Factory, or is it Fourth Ward? Because they're two distinctly different areas.
They are. I agree.
Gaston, this your neck of the woods.
Yep, this is my neck of the woods.
Where's the neighborhood? Where does this lot belong? In which neighborhood does it belong?
I almost think it's a no man's land. I'm gonna be honest. They're not, I don't think that they would necessarily associate with Fourth Ward, just knowing the housing that's right there currently by the flower factory. They're Fourth Ward, but I don't think they consider themselves part of Fourth Ward. And then, of course, on the other side where Cadence, the apartment complex, and then there's the single families, because there's divided by the music factory, I don't necessarily think that they consider that their neighborhood either. So it's almost like a no man's land there. But I just think, you know, it's a good use of the property because it's housing. There's single family housing, there's, you know, apartments or condos and all that kind of stuff. And so I just think that the effort that was made with this to appease, plus you were standing in the parking lot and you heard how loud it was. But these people are going to be in their house as well. So you're not going to hear that same sound when you're in your house. Perhaps they're using a little bit more sound deadening material for the houses. You know, I just think that it's a good.
So basically, it's its own neighborhood.
It is. It's its own neighborhood, but I mean, that's quite frequently
It's its
what
own
happens
neighborhood.
in that area, the little pockets of their
Okay.
own neighborhoods. And also the Urban Arboretum Trail, there is no trail, nothing in that north end area for residents to take a walk and connect with. You talk about they're adding greenways all over the city and doing all that. There is nothing in that area, nothing. And they've been talking about the Urban Arboretum Trail for the last 10, 15 years, and it hasn't come to fruition yet. So hopefully this will, you know, kind of spur it to come a little bit more, but I just.
Wait, say that last point again?
So the Urban Arboretum Trail, they've been talking about it for the last 10, 15 years, and nothing has come of it at this point.
Sounds like a DOT project. I'm just joking.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm going to be in listen only mode for Joe's benefit.
Yeah.
But it's 7:45 also, Mr. Chair, so just be conscious of our time for staff
Well-
and visitors.
Yeah, one more point. And I guess the question to me, Kiva, is any residential okay there? And then if any residential.
Yeah, give me 10 stories.
Yeah, but
Give me 10 stories, put my brewery on the back, on the bottom.
But
floor.
the deal becomes then, if some residential is there, where's the line when it stops being enough residential for you? And if, from a strictly land use perspective, we say residential can go there, then where do we, you know, can we draw a line there? Because I think if we say, oh, residential can go there, right next to this industrial.
2040 says Regional Activity Center.
But
What I
residents
just
can go to
described
Regional
sounds-
Activity Center.
But the higher density, the townhomes.
Right, that's, give me my
But
brewery and my nail salon and my
You in the nail salon.
Barrier.
hydration therapy guy, and I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, this wants to be part of the music factory. Let's just be
It
honest. It does. This wants to be part of the music factory. This is a commercial site. It's not a residential site. It's just not. Because of noise constraints, because of environmental. You're talking about putting people here full time for the rest of their lives. Whereas if it's a commercial site, it's transient. So you're in
To
and out.
that,
Yeah,
to
it doesn't
that
want to be a
point,
part
to
of.
that point, please keep in mind, we are advisory. There's a chance that this gets to council and it gets passed anyways.
Yeah.
This becomes all Airbnbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody living here.
They're gonna live
Exactly my
Yeah.
point. So what,
Yeah,
so what
they're
if
not gonna live there.
if we just essentially created an Airbnb neighborhood?
That's fine.
Is it though?
It is, because that creates, I honestly, we have to have built.
All right.
We, you know, you all know we have strayed far away from wherever.
And this is at the, and I will tell you that the reason why I'm encouraging discourse is because, like I said, there's 6 people at this dais.
I know.
And if we come down to, I just want us to be very conscious of our decision making, not that that should bear on your decision. It's just, I need for us to be conscious of that. But also to give it the weight that it needs, because I know all of us have visited, we've talked, we've visited again, we've discussed with petitioner team, we've discussed with staff, we've bugged CDOT, we've done these things and we're still not there. This doesn't happen very frequently, but here we are.
Commissioner Harvey, I want to make sure you get the opportunity to opine.
Sure. I agree with some of the comments, but more so in the thing of thinking about it of after people move there. So it becomes almost like this transitional neighborhood, 2-3 years and somebody's gone, or they turn it into an Airbnb or a rental. And, or the issue becomes, say, like some of the things that I deal with on my side where people move to Wilmore. There were 1501 and Cloud and all that already there, and now they're complaining, but you moved to an urban area. So it's going to lend itself to noise. And I just would be concerned that if we approve this, then it would be kind of steps or requests to fix the noise problem, which we can't do just by location alone. So
I see.
That's why they need to have that disclosure that they know that there's noise there.
Yeah.
Before you drive by a place you drive by at night, in the middle of the day and everything else,
Yeah.
you can hear it all.
it comes,
But-
911 calls and, 311 calls and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
No, people
All
will
right.
gladly sign that and forget about it.
Welton might be correct, but, all right, we do need to push to some level of decision here. We are keeping our staff partners and everyone here for an extra 20 minutes. Unless someone has something pertinent, we've heard from everyone. I feel good about that. I think there has been some great comments made, both in favor and against this. I would entertain any motion someone is interested in making at this point.
Commissioner Gaston.
Commissioner Gaston.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Review the petition and consider the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition. I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2021-238
Perfect.
as it appears before us and adopted by the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Commissioner Walton, I will second that motion.
Properly moved by Gaston and seconded by Welton. Those in favor of this petition should say aye.
Aye.
That was 2. And those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. That was 4, is that accurate? Okay. That motion failed. Is there any additional petition anyone would like to make? Alternative motion? Go right ahead.
Oh, I was just correcting.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. Does anyone like to make an alternative motion?
Because it's not 10 stories with a brewery on the bottom,
With nails.
with my hydration IV guy, to deny, having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to deny this petition, I move that we recommend denial of petition number 238, as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Properly moved by Samuel, seconded by Russell. Those in favor of supporting the denial, say aye. Aye. That is 4. Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
That is 2. The petition to deny, the motion to deny this petition has been passed 4-2.
Minority opinion.
Minority opinion?
What you gonna say?
What am I gonna say? Based on the current housing that is currently there in that area, that I think it would be consistent with the recommendation. I don't know how to word it. Based on the current housing that's there, that I see, which is in closer proximity, and has less of a buffer than this proposed, buffer from this current petitioner, I believe that it should be approved. Or I disagree with the denial. How you word that?
Yeah.
Y'all know what I mean.
Joe's taking notes, right? So
You got that, Joe?
he will make that sound pretty.
Make it sound pretty for me? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add, Welton?
The only thing I would say is that, that it is essential for us to understand how to treat putting residential close to industrial, because this is not the only old industrial site we have in the city. And this party will go around again, somewhere. So I would say that we need, if we're going to be consistent about it, we need to be consistent about where we put industrial next to residential and vice versa.
Okay. I think we're your previous comment? Do you want to amend your denial statement? Or no, I mean, I think you were accurate in what you had said before. I just want to make sure, is there anything else you want to?
No, did I read it right? I just want to add to, or just quickly reply to Bolton in that industrial, I'm finding it's becoming somewhat, a lot less linear, a lot less, some of this is very unique. There is no other ADM in this state. And I do get your point, and I do agree, but this particular industrial site is a very case. I don't think we would have had this much heartburn if we were talking a logistics facility.
I agree with you, but there's a big manufacturing vegetable oil plant right near my house that is screaming to come back at us in the same situation, I think, it's some point in time in the near future. So, yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, my mic wasn't on again. Motion to adjourn?
I would be more than happy to accept the motion to adjourn. I think we have affirmation and consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you, staff, so much for hanging with us.
Give them to Dave, or just leave them.